Hey, welcome to KUAM's Decision 2014. I'm Jess, the host of the show, and introduce my producer of the show, Kian Casey Conception, or JC Conception. I'd like to introduce my guests this morning. They are Senators Rory Respicio, Democrat, and Republican Senator Brant McCreadie. Good morning, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
Good, thank you. Good morning.
I think we decided that the gentleman,
Yes.
the Democrat gentleman, will start the questioning. Good morning, Senator. How are you doing this morning?
Good, very good. Senator Jesse, thank you for asking us to be here.
Please, hey, just tell the people of Guam again your name, like they don't already know, and the side of the ballot you're on, your number, and your political platform.
Well, I'm Rory Respicio, and I'm number 12 on the Democratic side of the ballot. But as I've always said, in every election, you run under a party. But when the election is over, you set that partisan hat aside and you work with whoever you have to work with in order to move this island forward. I've been honored to serve a couple terms now in the legislature, and certainly it's election time, and I continue to ask people for their support. By the way, Manana Sijus. And I want to also say today's the first day of the public school, and welcome all the students back to school and all the parents that have to get back in that school mode.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Senator?
Thank you very much, Jess and Senator Respicio for being here and allowing us to be here today. My name is Brant McCreadie, Republican Senator incumbent, number 4 on the ballot. I'm a father of 4 and a husband to a wonderful wife, Dina. Somebody asked me what the 3 greatest things that you've accomplished in your life. The first one was moving to Guam. The second one was meeting my wife, deciding to marry her, and having children. I think part of that is the reason why I am a public safety senator. I want to protect our children, protect our most vulnerable, which is senior citizens, and anyone who decides to take from the hardworking people of our island. I want to make sure that they are punished through tough legislation, and I will continue to do that every day I'm in office to protect the people of our island, make sure when we tuck them in at night, clothe them, put them to sleep, make sure they're fed, we make sure they're absolutely safe, and that's what I'll continue to do. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Senator, for your comments. But let me say, just thank you guys and congratulate you guys alongside, of course, the administration and school leaders as well. This is probably one of the first start of a public school year that a great child hasn't bestowed upon them, like food issues or bus issues and all that. So looks like everybody is starting on time. If they're not starting on time, it's because they're just deferred to a different time, maybe next week or later on in the week. But it's again, it's efforts. It's great to have collaborative efforts
Well,
from all branches.
Like the superintendent said, this is the best that the schools have been in decades. So, I mean, that's coming from him.
And I agree. Superintendent Fernandez is doing a fantastic job together with the Board of Education.
Yeah, and again, kudos to everybody.
Yeah,
You guys as well with that. Let me start off with you, Senator McCreadie. And I've got to start with this question. I'll be remiss if I didn't start off with this. Last week, I think it was Thursday when the news came out regarding the amicus brief that was presented. Of course, this was the weird case having to do with American Samoa, but basically it's not just American Samoa, it's all territories, U.S. territories, and this really reaches us. It's something that we've known for the longest time. We've been saying it. But now this is the first time that ink has been put to paper, solidifying the second-class citizenship that all of us are bestowed upon here in Guam. Congress can give it, Congress can take it away. Your thoughts on that? What repercussions? What are you going to change? Your approach to federal issues now going in there, and how aggressive do you think now it's time to now self-determine what our political status may be?
Well, thank you, Jess. Amicus brief is the U.S. Attorney on behalf of the Obama administration decided that the territories don't have the right to be citizens. I think that's a kick to us. I think that's it's unfair, and it's unfortunate that we would get an amicus brief with uneducated facts. I think the education doesn't have to start on Guam. I think we need to educate the people in Washington. I think they need to come here, educate themselves. I think they need to go to these memorial walls and see the patriotic people and the loss that we have suffered over the years and the sacrifices that we made, not just for ourselves, but our families. And maybe they need the education. And I think it would be a good idea for us to come up with an amicus brief and send it to them and invite them to come to Guam. I mean, when you park your plane here and you don't get out of it, how can you pass judgment, or how can you make an educated decision on what we are as a people? I think the people of Guam know between free association, independent, or statehood. And I think it's the people in Washington that need to be educated.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Respicio, you got a minute 15?
Well, I certainly want to add my thoughts to what Senator McCreadie just said, and also point out that finally we have closure, and we've known for decades that we're unincorporated territory, we're second-class citizens, but to finally have an administration point that out, that's something that is staring us in the face from the from the perspective of the executive branch. I think that the crux of our problem really is our federal-territorial relationship, and until we move forward more aggressively on the right to self-determination, we're always going to have these lingering issues with respect to are we fish or fowl.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that the administration has said that we're basically second-class citizens, that's something that doesn't sit very well with me. I have oversight over federal affairs in the legislature. Mm-hmm. And we're going to continue to use those kinds of evidences to make our case stronger in Washington, D.C., working with Congresswoman Bordallo.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Senator, and go back to you with that, and go on the same question with that. We have Department of Defense, I think, who's here this week. We meet. I don't know if they're scheduled to meet with the legislature, but will this come up now? Because now when we're talking about the military buildup and preferred areas for firing ranges and things of that nature, and of course we know Pagat is still on on the listing, maybe not looked at as the preferred site of the board, but it has not been removed from the table. The military buildup, areas of concern, or areas that are identified for driving or for shooting ranges and things like that. Now, because of this amicus brief, because of, again, the solidification of what we aren't and who we are, basically, would you bring this up, and would this be something that we can use again on our side to help us further our causes?
Well, I was always hoping that our approach to the military buildup, and let me stress, I support the military buildup, consistent with what the Obama administration wants to see, one Guam. Whatever's built up on base should be the same for the civilian side. And Undersecretary Work has adopted 4 pillars in how to go forward. I think that we have a great opportunity, and I'm always hoping that the governor continues the Guam First Commission, where we have all the different stakeholders at the table at the same time, speaking with one voice to determine the best outcome from the situation. And I'm always of the thinking that whenever you have something to leverage in any negotiations, you have to take advantage of that. And because Guam is tip of the spear, because of our strategic location, Senator, we need to keep reminding, although they know, we need to keep reminding the powers that be that the people of Guam have to buy into this process, and we have to be partners as opposed to being forced with any decisions that they make.
Okay. Senator, minute 5.
Thank you, Jess. And yes, I think the educational process that I spoke about earlier could start on Tuesday when a high-level secretary of the administration is here. I think we, as leaders of our island, have to take every opportunity to voice our displeasures of what kind of people that they think we are on Guam, whether it's a second-class or citizenship or any type of military buildup that they're going to take land. I agree that I support the military buildup and the net negative when it comes to land issues, but I'm also an avid fisherman, and I want to make sure that the seas are protected as well, and we're not dictated of where and where we can't fish because of a firing range. So I think there's a lot of issues that need to be ironed out, and I think our voice in Congress with Congresswoman Bordallo has to ask the tough questions and has to make sure that we're just not lying down for the people in Washington and make sure we fight the good fight. I mean, we're just not going to sit there and fight just to fight, but I mean, we have to fight for our people, and that's what I think we should do, and we can start this on Tuesday.
Okay, thank you. Senator McCreadie, let me start with you again. Situation, economic activity here in Guam. I served the 27th, 28th, 29th Guam legislature when, of course, DOE was, I think we budgeted every quarter we had to come back. It's kind of fortunate that they're kind of moving out of that realm right now, but it seems like the ones moving into the bottomless bucket at this point are the hospital, public safety. It's making the news almost every week. One of you are coming up with letters of concern regarding that. What are your thoughts, again, for economic prosperity? What else can we look at outside of what we have right now? I know lately you've been talking about the prison and building new prison. Overtime issues have been again rampant, but source of funding. What new source of funding can we look at, and what do you have in mind come the 33rd Guam legislature in, again, economic prosperity for our island outside of what we have at this point?
Well, I can tell you, and thank you for the question. I was just speaking with Senator Respicio outside about this, and you know, when you talk about a prison, it's not pretty and it's not cute, but it's something that we have to do, and the economic infrastructure that we have to build for the prison is not a question of how we're going to pay for it. The question is, how are we going to pay for federal receivership when the prison goes into federal receivership? That's the question. And right now, if we don't build that type of infrastructure, then we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars in federal receivership that's attached to our general fund that would be catastrophic to the people of this island. We are already paying for a prison. We're not getting the money back. We're throwing the money down a dark, deep, empty, bottomless pit. And that has to stop. We need to build the new infrastructure. We're 280% overcrowded, and we cannot do it anymore. We're going to be in a state of emergency by the beginning of the year with the overcrowding of the prison. We have $2.5 million in overtime annually. Just on overtime alone, cutting that, we could build a new prison and debt services. So we have to do it, and we have to make sure that we protect the general fund and avoid federal receivership.
Thank you. Senator Respicio,
Yeah.
you got a minute 5?
Yeah, thank you. You know, we will continue to do things like China visa waiver and other things to build our tourism industry. But I want to take us back to the federal-territorial relationship that I know you're very passionate about too, Senator Jesse, and you know, it's the tenets of the compact. There's issues of deportation for foreign criminals, and as Senator McCreadie pointed out, the prison is overcrowded. And I was happy that he allowed me to put an amendment on his bill, the 3 strikes and you're out, to require the Attorney General to report those incarcerated inmates that have been adjudicated and sentenced that are qualified to be deported. The impact to the Department of Corrections about $8 million a year. But there's also the hospital. The hospitals are only civilian hospital where it can't turn anybody away. But certainly, you know, there's more than $500 million, over $500 million that is owed to the people of Guam by the federal government, and those are the things that I will continue to pursue.
Okay, so let me ask, and I'm glad you mentioned the hospital, because just recently, Administrator Verga had arrived from the Philippines and touring St. Luke's, and talking about possibly partnering up with St. Luke's to be able to bring back expertise that are not already offered here, which is great. We applaud those efforts. Who wouldn't applaud those efforts? But the bottom line is, again, is somebody has to pay for it. So the non-payers, as we can't turn anybody away, the non-payers will continue to be non-payers. The folks that are paying will definitely continue to bear the burden of a non-paying community. And then, so the paying public will have to continue to bear the cost, additional costs. What are your thoughts? Are you willing to sit down? We got a new hospital opening up here. What are your thoughts of again, with the hospital? Do you think it's time that the government, as we did in 27th Guam legislature, looked and said, hey, we can no longer be in the telephone business. So we got out of it. Is it time to have an honest discussion with ourselves as a government and say, hey, hospital is probably something that we shouldn't be in the business of, and he's already been proven that. And if not, what is the solution again to solving that? What was once a bucket full of holes, now it's a bucket without a bottom. So
well, GMH needs a lot of help. Over the last several years, I was not happy that those money-making efforts or money-making opportunities at GMH were outsourced, like the hemodialysis unit. Those are certainly revenue-generating things at the hospital. There are things that the legislature has done to provide dedicated funding sources to the hospital. My colleagues passed one of my bills that said any new taxes paid by the new hospital shall automatically go to the Guam Memorial Hospital. I support the new hospital, and as a community, I'm sure we're all excited about this new hospital, but we also recognize the downfall. As you said, those with insurance will go to the new hospital, and the self-payers who become non-payers will go to GMH. I think the hospital administration and the board is aware of that, but I'm not sure if the hospital is outsourced, if a private company will take on that responsibility of not turning anybody away. But if the hospital just goes back to those programs and the ideas that makes them money and go after collections, I think that would be a big start.
Okay. Senator McCreadie,
Yes,
in a minute.
and I agree with Senator Respicio. He did introduce legislation, and it's a piece of legislation that does identify funding for the old hospital from the new hospital. Having said that, I want to make sure that the hospital is a priority, and not just 2 months before an election or during a budget year. I think we need to sit down, we need to find the shortfalls, we need to say, hey, there's a $60 million collection bill here. We need to get our collections in order. And I think that it's not going to take one day to turn this hospital around. It's going to take a group of smart young men and women to figure out how we can better serve the island with not just a suitable hospital, but a great hospital. Not just a hospital that survives, but thrives for the people. And I think that's very important. I think we should prioritize the hospital every day of the year until it gets to a point where it can sustain itself, and we no longer have to worry about providing health care for the people of our island.
Okay. Thank you, Senator McCreadie. Start with you again, this question. A federal issue again, that something I've been passionate about, but it's something that is very real to us as we see and we look and we read on a daily basis, the Jones Act. And when I'm talking about the Jones Act, I'm talking the Jones Act holistically, whether it's in the airline industry or the shipping industry. Jones Act is the umbrella under which the two different vehicles are governed by, right? With the cabotage or Jones, again with shipping. Now, I think it's Wednesday that I think Senator San Nicolas will have a sit down and a briefing on the situation that's happening with United and the challenges they're having mechanically with their airlines. Well, we also have a situation here regarding the Jones Act that, of course, these are things that maybe were put upon territories, particularly Guam, that it's outlived itself. We're looking at economic prosperity, whether it's again, visa waiver and all that. Years back, we got an exemption for cargo, which flourished the economic opportunity for Guam Airport Authority and businesses to flourish. High-paying jobs were created. We got an exemption for that. What will you do should you be elected in the 33rd Guam legislature to pressure the delegate, whoever that delegate may be, to get a full exemption again, to get not only the cargo exemption, but also passenger exemption, and also a shipping exemption for the people of Guam.
Well, I think when you talk about a piece of legislation or law that was enacted in the 20s, I think it has to be amended, first of all. And then you ask yourself the question, does the Jones Act, is it good for Guam? Does it create jobs? Does it lower prices? And is it help us live a better quality of life through pricing? And the answer is no. We import almost 600,000 pounds of just produce a week alone to our island of Guam. And so, yes, it does not work, and we have to pressure the federal government into getting those exemptions back on the table. You know, I mean, when you talk about, and I know you're passionate about the airs. When you were a senator, there's a company right now, and you know more about this than I do, that is guaranteed a profit from one destination to the next, and that's part of the cabotage that you talked about earlier. And I hope you touch on this a little bit in your show today. That yes, you look at it, And Guam is on the short end of the stick when you talk about this federal regulation, and it does not work for our island. And I thank the senator to my left because this is an issue that he has brought up during his term. So yes, it doesn't work for Guam, and we have to amend it. We got to get those shipping costs down. Absolutely.
I wish I was guaranteed profit if I didn't have to come into work. Senator Respicio, yes, a minute 15.
Thank you. I want to thank Senator McCreadie also for voting on a resolution that we passed that encourages the delegate to join the interagency working groups. There's a movement on a national level, as you know, through Hawaii and California and Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands, I believe, and they're trying to get, Guam has an exemption right now, but then there's no exemption for California and Hawaii, and most of our goods traverse through those areas. There's certain exemptions that Congress is looking at, like the exemption from having to have your ships built and bought in the United States. They can, if they were to buy a foreign vessel, which meets the United States standards, EPA and otherwise, then they would have already saved millions in the cost to have that boat here. And so that's another issue where the people of Guam are subjected to laws created by Congress that we have no say-so over. And I want to also make sure that it's clear that when we go after trying to tweak the Jones Act so it's an economic motivator for our community, we mean no disrespect or no slight to Matson, who's been a very responsible corporate citizen.
Okay, thank you, Senator Respicio. Start with you again with this. Just today's paper, you're talking about, of course, going after tax evaders. Okay, a couple of weeks ago, the governor says, "Hey, we're going to start coming down on folks who are not paying their taxes and maybe foreclose on some of their properties and all that." Now he says, "Well, we're going to go after commercial entities who are delinquent, who have been delinquent, who have maybe haven't showed any good faith in the past." Are you in agreement with that situation? And if not, what is your solution for, again, these tax evaders and delinquent taxes from not only the commercial entity but also private homeowners?
Well, certainly the Calvo administration has watered down its approach to going after these property taxes. When they said that they were going to go after commercial non-payers, you had some businesses say that if you go after the businesses and not the individuals, then there's a lawsuit waiting to be happened because it's equal protection under the law. I talked about earlier those plugs that we need to, those leaks that we need to plug. And if people aren't paying their taxes, there's got to be a way to recoup those non-payments, and I just want to make sure that that anything that they do is done based on rules or regs that was properly and duly promulgated, so that they're guided by some law, and so that there's an equal application of that law, and that some people aren't forced to pay or their land is taken away, and then others get away with it.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Respicio. Senator McCreadie.
Thank you. I don't agree with taking away someone's land who honestly is having a tough time trying to make ends meet. And I don't think the governor intended to do that as well. I think that we should do an educational process with the island and Revenue Tax. And I want to make it clear that we are business-friendly people, and we want to make doing business on Guam easier than harder. And I think it's time that we look at Revenue Tax as someone who can help us, who can go on a payment plan. Everybody falls into hard times. Every family, including myself, worries about paying the bills every day, and sometimes they get paid late, and we fall behind. It's just a fact of life that we all experience. And I think that instead of us running from Revenue Tax, I think we should run to them, set up a payment plan, make sure that none of our properties are in jeopardy, that we work hard for every day, and go on with our lives and continue to work hard to provide for our families. But I don't believe that we should be taking property away from hardworking people. I do believe we should punish the people who intentionally avoid paying taxes and evade taxes. And then when you talk about commercial properties, and then you talk about criminal charges, that's when I think we should enact those kind of laws.
Okay, thank you, Senator McCreadie. Let me start with you again with this. Medicinal marijuana, and now we got clarification. It's definitely going to be in the ballot for the people to vote. We got clarification now that it is legislative submission, not subjected to the Santos Amendment, which means you'll just be by a majority vote rather than 50% plus one. And then if somebody forgets to vote, it's not going to be counted against them at this point. So it'll be a simple majority. Your thoughts on medicinal marijuana? There's a recent editorial that basically said that, hey, look, we can't get some of our answers right. We should probably take more time to think this out prior to its implementation. I agree. It's going to take a lot of rules and regs. It's going to take a lot of money, not just for the implementation. We can't just have somebody, hey, go out and look at these places, make sure they're compliant. It's got to be a division within public health at this point. Law enforcement will have to be beefed up and so on and so forth. It's going to require a lot of money. Doesn't mean that because we're facing it, we cannot tackle it at this point. We have families. We're reading about Charlotte's Whip. We have Dylan's Whip at this point. We have a family that's already has moved off island already to treat their child. Your thoughts and views on medicinal marijuana, and what would you do again in the 33rd Guam legislature going in there to support should the people of Guam decide that this is what they want? And I know they got 9 months to get the rules and regs based on how it was written, but what will you do again in your part to move this forward, to get us a little closer so people can start getting treated out here?
Well, as soon as we promulgate the rules and regulations, or while we're in the process of promulgating those rules and regulations, if the referendum passes, we need to listen to every stakeholder. We need to find out and identify the problems and the concerns, and we need to tackle those concerns. We need to get the right people, the right doctors. We need to bring them into our island and find out how we can facilitate this and make sure it's something sustaining and it goes to the right places. You know, like I said, I always said when people ask me, are you for medical marijuana? And if my wife and kids and myself had cancer and the doctor told me that the way to treat this and to alleviate their pain was medical marijuana, I would absolutely support it. So it's not a question about supporting it. The question is when and if it gets passed into law, how are we going to deal with it then? And I think we need to be responsible, respectful, and we need to make sure that our constituents have a say in how we move forward with this piece of legislation.
Okay, Senator Respicio, you got a minute 15 from the last question. Okay.
Thank you. The recent Supreme Court decision was a victory for the people of Guam in that it determined that the legislature can give the people the right to vote on issues that we want to put to the community. In 2010, our community was not ready to talk about medical marijuana. Today, I believe that our community is, and I want to commend Senator Munya Barnes and Senator Aileen Yamashita for introducing the bill and for going a step further, and the legislature passing it by 14 of us, saying that ultimately, whatever our position is on the bill, the people should have that right to make that decision. Regulatory regulations is going to be the key in how we regulate this medical marijuana, but throughout the United States, we're seeing the benefits of medical marijuana and how many people are being helped. And so I'd like to focus on the patients and how this would help them, and for people to be open-minded, to understand that this is something that could really help them. And very quickly, I talked about the taking of lands for non-payment of taxes. I'm very confident that the rules and regs will prohibit that and that they would provide a payment plan. So I just want to be sure that I'm not aggressively saying go after private property owners, because that's certainly, I share that position as well.
There we go.
There's going to be a payment plan, and there's going to be a mechanism so that it's the money's recouped.
Yeah, thank you. And just a statement I want to make both of you as well. Should you get elected to the 33rd Guam legislature again, if medicinal marijuana should pass, they're going to need legislative support to get that. And folks, like again, so the stories that we read and hear about of patients having to go out of their states and not being able to go back to their home state because they can't bring their medicines with them. These are our stories. So we're reading them and we're seeing the faces of our people doing the same thing. So I would hope again that the 33rd Guam legislature would be, should the people of Guam decide to pass it, that the 33rd will give them all the support that it will take again for the people who are sick and needing them. Okay, we come to that point where we say thank you very much for coming in here, but please tell the people of Guam again your name, the side of the ballot you're on, your number, and what the first thing you plan to do should you be reelected to
Well, maybe
the
he
third
should
Guam
go
legislature.
first because I went.
There you
first
go.
with
Okay,
it.
Senator,
I wanna be fair.
Senator
Thank you,
McCreadie. There
thank
you
you.
go. There we go.
See, we get along. We work together. First of all, I want to thank Senator Respicio for his last 2 years in office and helping us facilitate our way around the legislature, and you, Jess, for having us today. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve the people of Guam. I humbly ask for your vote. I'm number 4 on the ballot. But either way, I'm so fascinated by the job, and I'm so thankful that they allowed me to serve their island, or our island, and to be a senator in the 32nd Guam legislature. I can't go wrong, and I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, myself and my family.
What number are you?
I believe I'm number 4 on the ballot. Yeah, on the primary ballot, number 4.
You are number 4.
Yes.
Senator Respicio?
Yeah, thank you, Senator Lujan. I also want to thank my great colleague here, Senator McCreadie, who really, we demonstrated together what happens during an election and what happens after the election. I recall we spent our entire reception at the inaugural Mass talking about the election. It was a brutal election for all of us, and talking about how that election is over and that we have to work together for the betterment of the entire people of Guam, and I think we've demonstrated that very clear. I'm asking the people of Guam to send me back to the legislature again. The whole plank of my political existence is standing up for you, and I will continue to do that whenever and wherever possible, reaching across the aisle, working with whomever to do whatever needs to be done. And my record is very clear. We've made progress on the indigenous fishing rights for all your listeners who've been very concerned about that, as well as the inspection of the Waizao Animal Quarantine Facility, and that's what it's all about. It's equal application under the law.
Thank you. What number are you?
Number 12, and I humbly ask for your vote.
Well, gentlemen,
Now we're going to go argue in the budget.
Senators, thank you very much again for gracing us with your presence this morning. Join me tomorrow morning when my in-studio guest, as we continue KUAM's decision 2014. My in-studio guest tomorrow will be incumbent Senator Tony Ada, likewise former Senator Adolfo Palacios, Democrat, of course, Tony being a Republican. You can view this as well tonight, 7:30 on local channel 2, likewise KUAM YouTube channel. Tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. as well on KUAM TV8. Of course, it'll be highlighted on KUAM Primetime. It's goodbye for now, and I'll talk to you tomorrow along with 2 other candidates.